Forgot to switch on the sound. That would suck. So hopefully you can hear me just okay. Let me know if not. Drop down to 1. Well, I'm just gonna sip my little white frizzante here. If you are in the room and you can hear me okay, please let me know, because sometimes the 2200 hours CET, that's right. Hackeningman. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yes? No? Well, anyway. So the theme is going to be pretty autistic tonight. And it's 5 weapons that you would pick, given that you could be teleported to any time in the Earth's history and place, including modern wars, including ancient times before humans even walked the Earth, that sort of thing. And okay, we got 1 thumbs up, so hopefully you can hear me. There might be a little bit of delay because of rural internet, so I'm just going to wait 30 seconds or so for you to let me know if the volume is okay and if you can hear me all right. I suppose if you can't hear me, that's you won't know. Maybe I should type it in here. Okay, audio's good. Perfect. Thank you very much, Hardy Harry. So yeah, the idea is, you know, what if you could only pick 5 firearms and the ammo for it, and as an autistic little game, I said, all right, you've got a 100 kilo limit, which is about 220 pounds. So, and you could be teleported to any place on Earth, including nowhere. So, but you can only have 5 weapons, firearms, and you have to be able to carry the weapons and the ammo on you within 100 kilograms. Like, what weapons would you pick? So, I guess without further ado, because whoever comes in late can ask questions. Okay, chat was acting up on me with first load. Yeah, I don't know if it's you guys, if it's me. Sometimes the rural internet here is a bit bad. My 4G thing, I squished the cable in the window and I think I broke it. So I've ordered another one, but you know, it takes a while to get out here. So, and again, it looks like there's 2, 3 of you, then 1. So I don't know if the stream is working properly or not. If you can hear me and you can see it, do let me know. So far, I think there's probably just 1 or 2 of you that can actually have a continuous. I might be popping in and out. If that's the case, let me know. And this line is called Garda. The brand is called Le Pieve. And it's a slightly sparkling white wine, very light. I quite enjoy it. It's really quite nice. It has to be chilled. I had left a glass in the freezer for a bit. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is show you the 5 weapons I would pick. But as I go through this, if possible, I want you to think what weapons you would pick and let me know, you know. So, and then once I've shown you all the 5 weapons, I'm going to show you a little autistic spreadsheet I built with the weight of each weapon and how much ammo I'd pick on each weapon and how much the ammo weighs and all that. Because I went full autist on this one. So the first one that I would pick is my trusty Ruger precision rifle in 300 Winchester Magnum. It's a pretty heavy rifle. It's about, you know, once you put the scope on it, once you put the bipod on it, it comes with 2 mags standard, and then a weapon like this, you really want a proper decent carry sort of bag for it, which exists. My preferred one is actually a relatively cheap Chinese one, which fits the rifle in. Also has like a waterproof wet mat area that you can use to like lie down on, and various compartments for ammo and like, you know, scopes, other things that you want to maybe fit in there. So all told, this weapon would probably weigh about 15 kilos with the, that's without the ammo, that's just the weapon. So that would eat into your 100 kilo you know, load. So that would be my first thing. 300 Win Mag, just to give you an idea. As most of you know, I lived in Africa. My father hunted there, I hunted there. 300 Win Mag is good enough for taking down buffaloes, even hippos. I wouldn't want to take out a hippo that's charging me if I'm sitting on a canoe with it. But you know, you can take an elephant down with it, but a charging elephant with a 300 Win Mag, we know that for a fact, probably isn't going to stop it unless you very cool, calm, collected, and do a really good shot. Shooting it on the side, you know, when it's not really aware that you're around, different story. Yes, it can take down an elephant. I would hate to try and take down a charging T-Rex with a 300 Win Mag, but I have to try and balance out, okay, what if I'm gonna be teleported into, like, you know, T-Rex times and Triceratops times compared to like everything else. Now, if I was gonna be if I knew I was gonna go to like T-Rex times, then I'd want a 50 caliber, you know, not a 300 Win Mag. But in balance, 300 Win Mag is big enough that you can take down everything if you hit it in the right spot, and it's a good enough rifle that even if you're in modern warfare, it's a good weapon to have. So, bit of a compromise of everything, but yeah, that would be the one sort of number one thing. Now, for the number two weapon, I would pick this one, which you've seen before. The Ruger. Let me just move myself out the way here. Where am I? The Ruger GP 100 or 101, as it's sometimes called, with a 6-inch barrel. I am fond of this weapon. I've used it a lot. The one I used to work with was a 4-inch. This is a 6-inch, but it's reliable. It's a revolver. Doesn't matter where you put me, that thing is just gonna shoot. And you'll see why I picked this in the next weapon. Again, this is pretty simple to explain. Doesn't really need much of an introduction. And you know, this particular weapon comes in this configuration or this one. I don't really have a preference. I've used both. I might like the smooth one a little, you know, rather than the rubber grip one a little bit more, but you know, I'm not fussed. Either one is okay. But anyway, so that would be weapon number two. So now I've got a long gun and a handgun. And third on the list is this one, which explains a lot. This is an 1866 lever action rifle, and I believe it's a Winchester, but I believe that this one can or does come in 357 Magnum. So now you see the ammunition for the Ruger would also fit in this. This carries 15 shots. And if this particular one, the model 1866 replica, obviously doesn't work with 357, I know it works with 38 Special, but if it didn't work with 357, then I'll pick a lever action rifle that does work with 357, and they definitely exist. And the reason for that is because a lever action rifle in 357 Magnum gives me a range that the handgun wouldn't give me with the same level of accuracy, and it's just, you know, a nice weapon to have. The ammo is interchangeable, so you only need to carry one caliber instead of two different ones, and it works in both weapons. Now, the number 4 weapon is the trusty old SPX Defender, which is an 8-shot shotgun, pump action. It carries 8 shots in there, and again, pretty self-explanatory and so on. And then possibly something you might not have considered, but I certainly do, and it's the good old Colt Navy. 1851 Colt Navy. Sorry, let me just get myself out the way there. And there, let's put this back. Let's put this back so you can see the whole thing. In black powder with caps. Why? Well, you will see this, first of all, because if I am teleported, 12 gauge, sorry, for the shotgun it's 12 gauge. For the for this handgun, if I'm teleported to, say, T-Rex times, and I'm there for the rest of my life or whatever, eventually I'll run out of ammo. But if I know how to make black powder, I still have a chance. Oh, rural internet starting to like bump the thing down. Yeah, for the SXP shotgun, it would be a 12 gauge that I would pick. So with this weapon, the 1851 Navy, Colt Navy, I don't need brass, and all I need to do is remember or learn how to make black powder. And you can carry a bunch of caps. Obviously the caps go over here on the nipples. You can carry a few thousand of them. And if you know how to make black powder, and you've got the little tools for it, and you can find lead, you can make lead, and you can make ammo for this. And you'll see now my autistic little spreadsheet. And I've done 2 versions of it. So this one is, if you're gonna have like, let me just get myself out the way if I can. Sort of a little bit in the way there. Let me just put myself there. Okay, you can't read the notes there, but hopefully, let me know if you can read these things. Hopefully you can. But basically, this is if you're going to have 1,000 ammo of pretty much everything. So that's the weight, how many of the rounds you can fit in 1 kilogram. So for the Ruger precision rifle, you can fit about 30 rounds in 1 kilogram. They weigh about 33 grams each. So 1,000 rounds will be 33 kilos. The rifle itself will be about 12 kilos. That's including the scope, the bipod, and the carry bag, and maybe a couple of minor tools like little screwdrivers and stuff. So there's the weight of the weapon, there's the weight of the ammo. That's in kilograms, and this is in pounds for the people who don't know how to do maths properly. There's the Winchester pump action shotgun, only 500 shells of this one, and that would weigh 21 kilograms. You'd get 21 shells. Now, this is an approximation because it depends whether you're going to have solids or buckshot or number 10. There is a little bit of a variance here, but on average you can fit about just under 21, so I'd call it 21, rounded up. So 500 shells will weigh 24 kilos. The shotgun itself only weighs about 3 kilos. The lever action Winchester weighs about 5 kilos, and 1,000 rounds of 357 Magnum will weigh 16 kilos because there's 16 grams per shell. So you can fit about 62 of them in 1 kilogram. And the Ruger GP, again, it's included up here. So the rounds, there's 1,000 rounds in there. And that's sort of where you'd fit. So you'd be able to split the 1,000 rounds between these 2 weapons. And then the 1851 Navy. Now the weapon itself weighs about 2 kilograms, but the powder, one shot requires about 2 grams of black powder, and 2 kilograms of it will give you 1,000 rounds, because 1 kilogram will give you about 500 shots. And percussion caps, which are less than a gram each, really, you can carry 1,000 of them for a kilogram. So for just 3 kilograms, you got 1,000 rounds there. So this is just to give you an idea. Just the weapons together weigh 23.5 kilos. It's about 50 pounds. And you see that we get there to 99.5. But I want to show you how I would actually divide it. This is just a standard thing to give you an idea of how I would do it. But this is the way I would actually split it up. So I would have there. Oh, sorry. Maybe it's better if I do it this way. Yeah. I would have 500 rounds of the Aruga precision rifle, because I would really only try and use that if I am taking down dinosaurs, or like if I'm a sniper in a war situation. 500 rounds is a lot. You're gonna try and use this rifle to do one shot, one kill type stuff. So similarly, the shotgun, it weighs, the shotgun shells are heavy for what they give you, so I would only go for 500 rounds of those. And then I'd go for 2,000 rounds of the 357 Magnum, because that gives me 2,000 rounds that I can split between the Winchester and the handgun, assuming that most of them will be in the Winchester, and that's open sights, sort of like 150 meter type stuff. So for hunting, it's good enough. For generic feeding yourself, it's good enough. And then for the black powder weapon, I'd have 1,250 rounds worth of powder and 1,500 rounds worth of caps. Now you'll notice that means, oh well, you're 250 rounds short. Well, in theory, if you know what you're doing, you could build black powder and then you'd still need the little caps. So in total, if you look at the total number of rounds that you could potentially have with this, if we assume that you can make the black powder, so you've got over 4,000 rounds, 4,250 rounds of potential weaponry. Admittedly, in this one, you still have to find lead, right? You have to find lead and a way to make a bit of fire so that you can make the lead, and the weight of the, let me just move myself out the way. You can see there, I say that it includes the loading kit and all that. There's like a little tool that you can squeeze, or you can pour molten lead in, and it makes the rounds. So if you think about it, 4,000 rounds across all the weapons, if you're shooting one shot a day to feed yourself or whatever on average, and I mean there's going to be days where you don't need to shoot anything, but on one shot a day, you've got over 10 years worth of ammo. So that's, if you're shooting once every day, you've got enough ammo to last you 10 years, which should be enough for you to sort of settle down, even if it's in, Tyrex country. So that's my autistic little scenario. And I'd be interested to know what you guys thought of, in your own mind before maybe you saw my picks. I'm curious to know what you guys would want to have, considering that you could go from Pirates of the Caribbean to the T-Rex to Afghanistan during the war, whatever. Hello Backstabber. Looks good. Woolly Ram High and Tides of Truth. It looks like I probably have some lag and a bit of rural internet popping in and out. Hello Pedro. So it's probably not an ideal stream. Sorry about that, but not a lot I can do until I get the 4G cable, which is taking a long while. So that's my autistic little live stream. 20 minutes. I did it pretty good. So I'm now just going to wait for you guys to catch up with what I said. Hello Todd, how you doing, buddy? And let me know what you think and what weapons you would have picked, or if any of the things that I said like changed your mind or gave you a bit of inspiration. This is the kind of stuff that I used to spend like days working out when we're playing role-playing games, and and you had the potential to be teleported in some place. I like guns. Is that bad? Why are you asking such questions? Are you gay? No, liking guns is good. It's all good. Yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of a lag between my saying something and you guys hearing it, but Hardy Hard says a 20 gauge with similar ballistics to the 12. I do like the 12 gauge cartridge adapters for breech loaders. Okay. I love my 20 gauge pump. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever fired a 20 gauge. I've never used a 20 gauge. I've always just shot 12 gauge, and that's what I'm used to, and I quite like it. It works. It's a very versatile weapon, shotguns. I wouldn't want to take a shotgun, even if it's buckshot or slugs, against like a pretty heavy animal, like, I don't know, a charging rhino or triceratops. That's like 300 Win Mag territory, and even then, I don't know that I'd be that comfortable. Hello, Chad. 22 is cheap ammo, not great stopping power, but good for kids. Yeah, and to be fair, a little 2.2 rifle. There is that survival rifle that you can fit all inside the what do you call it, the stock, and it's a 2.2 rifle, like a survival rifle. In 2.2 you can carry a lot of ammo, so that would probably be a smartish choice. But I sort of picked the weapons that I picked because I would rather pick a middle of the road versatile weapon that you can use in everything. So that survivalist rifle, that 2.2 rifle, say you're dropped in modern warfare stuff, you're kind of screwed if that's like one of your main weapons. While if I've got the 300 Win Mag as my main weapon, okay. And let's say I've run out of ammo on my 300 Win Mag and I've only got the Winchester left. I'd rather have the Winchester in a modern warfare combat situation than the 2.2 survival rifle. Yes, I could have more 2.2 ammo on the rifle and that, but so that's kind of where I'm coming from. Woolly Ram, assuming it's not. Oh, assuming I'm not a gun guy, what type of guns should I scavenge when the zombie apocalypse happens? Well, you're obviously, in the zombie apocalypse, the thing is you're going to be limited by what you have around you, so where is your zombie apocalypse? In your case, it would be Israel, I guess. I think there's a lot of guns in Israel because there's a lot of military people walking around. So scavenge whatever one of the military guys have. That would be the ideal thing, because that ammunition is going to be all over the place, given that, in the zombie apocalypse, the military is going to be out in force as well. I used to think when I was living in Venice, I thought, well, I don't need a gun here, If the zombie apocalypse happens, there are tiny little calles in Venice where I'll just use a hammer. I'll just wait inside a doorway, and when eventually the military guys have to come single file down the tiny little route, I can just wait behind the little doorway in there in an alcove, and then when a first soldier comes out, donk, I can take his gun, and the next guy still won't be able to shoot me because his friend's half dead body's gonna be in the way, and I'll take his rifle, and then I can just lean it around and go dun 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 dun, clear out the whole calle. So depends on your situation, depends on your you gotta go work with what you've got, and so whatever's most plentiful is what you should try and go for if you're in a zombie apocalypse and you start out without a weapon. Failing that, whatever you can get your hands on, because having something that's not ideal is better than not having anything. So Wade Wilson says, I love this list. So revolvers are overall a better choice than handguns if shit hits the fan. Well, revolvers are handguns, but I know what you mean. You mean semi-automatic pistols. Personally, yeah, because a revolver, you drop it in the mud, you pick it up, you pull the trigger, it fires. It's got a lot less stuff that can go wrong with it. If the ammo is shit, got wet, doesn't work, you just pull the trigger again and it goes. Semi-auto pistol, you got to clear it, you know. There's a lot more things that can go wrong with a semi-auto pistol in a long-term shitty environment situation. Wooly Ram says, Chad, hammer keyboard flattener of New Orcs. Yes, Chad has been having quite the battle online and Gab and other places. Todajala says, true, but your kids need a gun too. Crazy idea to libtards, but true, and to two is great for kids. Yeah, it is. That said, my first shot was with a 38 Special when I was 2 years old. And then after that, with a 12 gauge shotgun when I was 4. And then after that, with a 357 Magnum and a 22 when I was, 6 or 7 or so. Kids adapt to whatever. I was shooting 357 Magnums when I was 12 years old. In fact, I carried it for like hours tracking down a buffalo. When I first shot my buffalo, I was 12 or 13. It's on my blog somewhere. If you search, you'll find it. There's a picture of me there as well. And that was with a 375 Magnum, which I carried by myself. Pedro Raja, the most advanced medium long-range weapon that I've owned was a slingshot. I've shot a bow and a crossbow. I have plenty of axes and machetes. Yeah. You don't want to come across a guy like me in the zombie apocalypse that's your enemy, Pedro. You would just become food. Sam, sorry I'm late. Hello, friends. Hail Kurgan. No, that's all right. I'm usually late starting, so. Hardy Arda, a hammer is a good sentry removal tool. I think probably a wakizashi, a short samurai sword, is probably a better sentry removal tool, but not as easy to carry around, I guess. No. Forgive me, I think the little dude is not unhappy. Just give me a minute. Fire your questions, give me your list. I'll be back in a sec. All right. Okay. Catch up here. Pedro says getting ammo seems impossible around here, but guns should be more accessible. I don't know where around here is. My grandmother used bottles with gasoline and cooking oil for defense purposes. We work within the tools we have. Yeah, no, you do, I guess. You must be on some godforsaken country with no weapons or something. Willie Ram says common guns here shoot 9mm and 5.56 NATO. Yeah, I don't like 5.56, but it makes sense. Israel is a small country. You don't really need long-range weapons there very much, and it's mostly urban warfare, I think. So 5.56 is designed to wound rather than kill mostly. I always will prefer 7.62 over 5.56 if I have a choice. Todd says the best gun is the one you have when you need it. That's right. And Woolly Ram Kid should operate the fixed mortar. Yeah, we know that meme. And Backstabber says, I only have experience with paintball, BB, and rubber pebble guns, but always try to gather experiences from professionals. Yeah, that's, you work with what you got. Have you played any shooter video games? Yeah, I have. Back in the day when I had time to play video games. I think Doom was probably... Oh, no, Call of Duty as well. I finished both. So, Call of Duty was really good. I really enjoyed that. I just don't have the time now, 5 kids and farm, and it's just... Woolly Ram scenario. Zombie apocalypse is ongoing. You come across an unspoiled Home Depot hardware store. You have a hiking backpack. What do you take? Flammable liquids. Whatever's in the store. I don't know what Home Depot has, but over here you would find things like paraffin, paint stripper, stuff like that. Probably also alcohol, like spirit alcohol. You can find various pressurized cans that would be flammable, like WD-40 oil. I don't know whether that's actually flammable from a can, but anyway, I'd pick some of that stuff up. And then, things like axes. I don't know what you call it in English. It's like falcetto, we call it. It's sort of like almost like a little short sword, different sizes, but it's got like a bent blade with the sharp side on the inside of the sort of half moon thing. You get ones that are like pretty much circular, and then you get ones that are sort of long with like a little thing like that. Machetes, you get those in hardware stores here. I would guess you'd get that in America as well. Probably some long poles to make spears out of, metal poles, and probably some power tool to help me, like a little grinding machine to help make better tools. Knives, box cutters. Again, hardware stores here generally will sell different types of knives and box cutters, that sort of stuff. Chain, I'll probably get metal wire and chain, pliers. Zip ties, big zip ties. Duct tape, you can never have too much duct tape. Rope, different types of rope, like climbing rope, that stuff that's like really strong but not necessarily very heavy. And I think that about covers it off the top of my head. That's what I'd probably go for. Underbear, 12 gauge slugs, cheapest 50 cal you can get. Yeah, but it's obviously far less power than an actual 50 cal. 7.62 NATO 308 Win are okay but heavy. No, my minimum go-to round for like a rifle is a 300 Win Mag. Like I said, I consider 308s underpowered, sort of. I don't consider them sniper weapons. Now, I did train with a guy that, we had this conversation, and he's a bit smaller than I am, but he's fit. We're the same age. He's a very fit guy. I'd say he's probably fitter than I am at the moment. And his go-to weapon is a 308. It's a short little 308, but that guy fires thousands of rounds a year. He's a sniper trainer guy, and at 1,000 meters with a 308, that guy will fuck you up, even if you're walking or running or whatever. He's very, very good. I wouldn't be able to do that with a 308 right now, but with a 300 Win Mag, and if I get a good few seconds to aim right now, as I am, no further training, at 1,000 meters, I will fuck you up. With a bit more training, I'd fuck you up at 1,500. But that, I need to work on it more, you know. So for me personally, even though it's heavier, even though it's a bit more of a pain in the ass to carry around, in an apocalypse, I'd want a 300 Win Mag as my minimum rifle. And we had this conversation. And he said, but why? It's heavier, you know. And I said, dude, the way you shoot, I agree. 308 is good enough for you. But if I could shoot the way you shoot, if I had the same amount of training, the same, you know, ability, I'd still take a 300 Win Mag, because then I can fuck you up at probably almost 2Ks, you know? And right now, with the 300 Win Mag, what you can do at 1,000 meters, I can do maybe at 500 or 600 meters, but at least I'm sure it's going there. I don't have to think too much. I don't have to like consider wind and bullet drop and all that shit, because at 500 meters, a 300 Win Mag is, you know, it's pretty flat trajectory. So I could just go doom, 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 and then move. And he laughed and he goes, okay, I get where you're coming from. So, you know, it depends on your ability, it depends on what you can have, it depends how much you can carry, it depends on how fit you are, it depends on so many factors. There's no like one solution fits all, you know. For some guy, you know, let's say I was like 5'2", sickly, weak, and like couldn't run up and down hills. Fuck that shit. I'd wear a suit and a tie, and I'd carry a tiny little tutu with like a homemade silencer on. And I'd just be like, oh no, I'm just a little old man. I just, you know, I wear glasses and I like I walk a bit stooped and maybe carry a walking stick. And I was, you know, sir, can you help me? Where's your papers? And just walk away. You know, you got to do what you can in the zombie apocalypse. That's, I'm late, missed the list. Okay, I'll how many of you are there? There's only like 7 of you. If we hit like 15, 20, tell your friends. I'll go through the list again quickly. One of the top 5 has to be a nail gun. Use the other 4 for boomsticks. But the man with a nail gun kit is high value. No, I don't agree. Home Depot. Oh, okay. If you in the Home Depot nail gun, okay. Don't know. You need electricity to get a nail gun to work. So, oh, well, no. I lie. Not necessarily, right? You got the fire ones. Yeah, you're right. That's not a bad shout, Robert. I take it back. You may well be right. Forget the backpack. I'm transforming one of those sheds into a startup community center to build a village from at the Home Depot. Very good. 12 gauge can fire 50 BMG. Yeah, you've watched the YouTube videos. Good luck, dude. You do that 4 or 5 times, then let me know how your face feels once it blows up on you. What approach do you recommend to get some skills with guns? Join the local shooting range or hunters club? I would like to get some experience, but the culture here is very anti-gun. Who gives a shit what the culture is? The fuck? I'm in northern Portugal, kind of interior rural area. People here always assume that the police should take care of your security and that anyone with self-defense fighting ability is training to be a criminal. Who gives a fuck what they think? In Portugal, you can own weapons. You know, put in your papers. If you're a law-abiding citizen without a criminal record, which I assume you are, although your name is Pedro, you know, so I don't know. But anyway, put in your papers and, you know, get a gun license and buy whatever fucking gun you want. Who gives a shit what your neighbors think? Who gives a flying fuck? Why do you even care? Why is that even a consideration? I don't care. Yeah, Woolly Ram says, Pedro, are you in Soviet Kazakhstan? Yeah, you'd think, right? And even in Canada, you can own guns. Pedro, I don't believe what other people think matters much when it comes to survival. NPCs are irrelevant. Exactly. Wade gets it. Todajal, I like my 40 cal pistol. Ruger Semi, got lots of ammo. Don't care about anti-gunners. Laugh. Yeah. Yeah, I used to own a 40 S&W in Heckler & Koch, but I'm never going to buy another Heckler & Koch. And I know maybe I just had a bad experience. But that firearm, you know, Heckler & Koch, supposed to be German engineering, well, that fucking thing, it sometimes didn't hit the primers hard enough to set the round off. It just dented the primer, but not, you know, it had something. I took it to gunsmith and said, look, can you change the firing pin or something, make it a bit longer, or something's not right here. So once in a while, it would just, you'd have to cycle it again, and then it doesn't mean that the next round would fire. So it was just, I fucking gave up on that gun. I mean, I carried it and stuff, but I, you know, not if sometimes I didn't have an option. I had to have that one because for whatever reason. But yeah, I'm never gonna buy a Heckler & Koch again just on that basis. I was like, fuck that. While I've never had a problem, say for example, with blowback 22 Berettas, I've fired those since I was a kid, and I've never even had one jam on me once or misfire. So making firearm and caliber choices is a series of compromises, really. The more skill you develop through practice, the fewer compromises you need to make. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Sam's got it right. Willie Ram, Pedro, it's time for you to become the local warlord. Wade Wilson, let your neighbors think you're a dangerous criminal. Their fear is more useful than anything else they might think. Exactly. Gives a fuck what they think. Hardy Hardar, a Chaytac with the intelligent targeting would likely make my list. I don't know what that is. Hardy Hard, can you send us a link or something? Chaytac with the intelligent targeting. Or is that with supposedly a smart bullet that will like follow the target sort of thing? 13. Okay, 2 more and I'll go through the list quickly again. For the latecomers. And just, I'm probably not going to through the spreadsheet again unless you guys like hound me for it. But the autistic spreadsheet showed you that you can have up to about a total of over 4,000 rounds for all weapons combined. And if you're firing 1 shot a day of whatever weapon, you know, that's more than 10 years worth of rounds. So even if you end up in T-Rex land, I reckon within 10 years you should be able to build a decent shelter, decent home, somewhere that's defensible and, you know, free from hordes of T-Rexes and marauding, charging Triceratops. But yeah, I've always liked sort of considering, okay, what would happen if you just, you know, happen to be walking along and, oh, we got 15 of you guys. All right, I'll go through the list again briefly. So, the first weapon that I would pick is this one. Okay. Oh, I have to select the thing here. Where are we? There we go. There you are. Oops. Sorry, let me move myself out the way. The Ruger Precision Rifle in 300 Win Mag. That's what I'd pick. On the spreadsheet, which I might show you guys later, I would have 500 rounds and this weapon. This is good to 1,500 if you know what you're doing. 1,000 if you're half decent. 500 if you're any retard that's ever picked up a gun, pretty much. Second weapon that I would have is this one, the Ruger GP100 with 6-inch and 357 Magnum. And one of the reasons I picked that is because the third weapon I would have is this one, which is a 1866 Winchester lever action, 15 shots plus 1 in 357 Magnum. So you can use the same rounds in the pistol that you can in this thing. The advantage of this, you see the 357 Magnum, I would just wear that on my hip as a last resort weapon when I am charged by the T-Rex. I've fired my 300 Win Mag, missed or whatever the hell, run out of ammo. And it's now on top of me and I've got to defend myself just with the 357 Magnum. So that would be like a close range sort of oh shit weapon. Most of my 357 Magnum rounds would come out of this for hunting purposes, defense, whatever. This will extend the 357 Magnum round to about 150, maybe even 200 meters. And it's good enough to hunt with and pretty much anything that you can sort of eat size. I would have one of these, but this would probably be the weapon that I would get rid of the first if I had to, you know, reduce it down to like, I don't know, 4 weapons or whatever. This is an SPX Defender Winchester pump action. It's an 8+1 shell shotgun. And I would have about 500 rounds of this. Of the 357 Magnum on 100 kilograms, right, which includes your backpack and whatever, I would be able to have 2,000 rounds of the 357 Magnum. So I would have 500 rounds of this, 500 rounds of the Ruger Precision Rifle, and 2,000 of the 357 Magnum rounds. And lastly, but not leastly, would be this, which is the 1851 Colt Navy in black powder. The reason, because 2 kilograms of black powder will give me over 1,000 rounds. It's 2 grams per shot, so 1 kilogram is 500 shots. 2 kilograms of black powder will give me 1,000 shots of this. And then the percussion caps, which, you know, would go here, they're less than a gram each, so 1,000 of those is like, say, a kilogram. So with 3 kilograms, I'd have enough powder and percussion caps to fire 1,000 rounds. And since black powder is something you can build if you find the ingredients, I wouldn't have any actual rounds for this, other than maybe a handful of them, because I would have the tool for it, which is included in the weight. And the tool for it is, if you can find lead and melt lead, you can pour the lead in the little tool and you'll make the rounds. So this is sort of like when you run out of all the other ammo, you go and find, you know, in the 10 years that you've got, or in the 8 years that you've got with the other weapons rounds, you find yourself the necessary material to make black powder and to melt lead, and then you've got another 1,500 rounds of this. So that's the list. And okay, since I am autistic and so are all of you, here's the spreadsheet that shows you how I would select or split all these things. That's how much ammo you can get in 1 kilogram of each of the things. It's 30 for the Ruger, 21 for the pump action, 62 for the 357 Magnum, and you can see here in 1 kilogram of powder, you get 1,000 shots out of it, and 1 kilogram of percussion caps, you get 1,000. 2 kilograms of powder, you get 1,000 rounds, and 1 kilogram of percussion, that's 1,000. So there's the total. 500 of the Ruger Precision, 500 of the pump action, 2,000 of the 357 Magnum, and 1,500 percussion caps, but enough powder for only 1,250 shots. And that's because hopefully you will find the ingredients to make the black powder, and then you still have another 250 shots with the percussion caps left over. Grand total here is over 4,000 rounds, so if you're firing 1 round a day, that's over 10 years of ammunition, which, you know, should be enough for you, even if you end up in T-Rex. No, sorry, what's that? That's not, I'm going in the wrong place here. Even if you end up in the T-Rex area. Where are we? I'd rather like, okay, let me just scroll back a little bit. Pedro, carry your arms in a guitar case incognito. Woolly Ram, what about melee weapons? Which day-to-day tools make a decent zombie remover? Hand axe, ice pick, machete, tanto, itachi. Itachi is the actual proper full-length samurai swords. You know, pretty much anyone will do for a zombie. These modern scopes can tag a target and be set to discharge when you aim on target while holding the trigger. Oh. Yeah, that shit's gonna go wrong. If you're in a zombie land, muddy, T-Rex filled field. I'm just saying, you know. Drone would be essential scout ahead. Also, anti-drone methods are needed for going solo. Okay, you're talking about modern warfare. I'm talking about, you know, fantasy scenarios where you appear in like pirate times or the Middle Ages or whatever. You all hit the like button to make happy algorithms. Robert Wood. Ah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, you guys all hit the happy button. Felis Concolor revolver / lever gun shared caliber is an excellent versatile combination. I rather like Ruger's Black Hawk in 45 long Colt coupled with a Marlin. Yeah, that's a fair alternative, I guess. Sort of a bit of a personal preference. Sam Wereb says, Kurgan, I humbly suggest you'd like to look at the Marlin lever action rifle offerings. Winchester is just a brand name now, owned by investors and bankers. Yeah, you know, the Winchester shotgun works fine. I don't consider like the shotgun and the lever action rifle as like primary weapons. They're kind of like play around weapons, you know. Underbear says, guessing you can't get a 9mm pistol carabine combo there. Yeah, you can get pretty much anything you can get in the States here. There's no difference, really. It's just a bit more regulated, that's all. But and you can't have any suppressors in Italy. They're not allowed at all. But otherwise, if you can get it in the States, you can pretty much... There are some limits. Like, for example, I was looking at a shotgun that... I don't think I'd actually like it. I forget what it's called. Caltech, I think it's called. It's got 2 barrels and 2 like magazine tubes, whatever they're called. And if you put the short rounds in there instead of the full-length shotgun shells, you can have up to like 25 rounds. But I think that the limit in Italy is like 12. Even on that one, they sort of limit it to like 12 rounds or something like that. But I don't know that I would like that anyway. Anyway, you know, like if you get like 6, 7, 8 rounds in a shotgun, it's plenty. It's fine. Winchester Defender is awesome, lightweight too. Yeah, it is. It is a nice weapon. Yeah. Woolly Ram, anyone remember what the melting temperature of lead is? It's not a lot. You can melt lead on your stove. I did that a lot as a kid. You know, another sort of survival type weapon would be a good quality pellet gun, actually. Because you could have a shitload of ammo. I mean, like 500 pellets fit in a tin like that. So you could have like probably 10,000 of them. And it's good enough, you know, to shoot birds and rats and little critters and whatever. So that would probably be a decent, actually, weapon in a survivalist sort of scenario. But I used to have a pellet gun when I was a kid. That thing was accurate. I mean, I literally could shoot in the same hole at like 10 meters. Pellet guns now that are fired, they're like shitty. They get like really crappy groups at like 10 meters. Maybe it's just the quality of it, but you know, $200 now will get you a shitty pellet gun. $200 back then would get you, or the equivalent of $200 would get you a decent pellet gun that fired accurately, you know. So, I don't know. Sign of the times, I think. Sam says, wonderful. I wondered why you left black powder rifles off the other list. You were saving it for last. Yeah, you know, the black powder would be, it's sort of an emergency proper zombie apocalypse that's gone on for years scenario where you run out of like normal ammo or you run out of reloading equipment or proper powder or something, and you know, let's say there was an actual zombie apocalypse. After 10 years, if you're in the States, okay, you could probably still find rounds after 10 years maybe. But I don't know, in Europe, most of Europe, after like 2 or 3 years, you'd be fucking struggling to find rounds. So you probably have to make black powder ones, I'd guess. Underbear, have considered ammo availability mostly. What are the armies of the world using? Then have something that shoots that. Most armies will have 9mm for like short weapons and 5.56 or 7.62. Unless you're sort of in the East Bloc, African area, and then AK-47 rounds are probably more prominent. Woolly Ram, the way things are going, local warlord seems to be best job prospect. Wade Wilson, yes, that might be useful. Underbear, I already carry my bastons and machetes on a gym bag, but it doesn't compare with the mobsters movies where they carry their Tommy guns in their saxophone case. Yeah. You guys seem all to be very knowledgeable about guns. This is a very interesting topic. Yeah, Caltech KSG. It's wild looking. Yeah, it is, but I've never fired those like shotguns where the pump action is like a handle that you hold vertically. I don't know, it just feels wrong to me because the bending moments would be all wrong. I don't know, I just can't see that lining up as much. I feel that you pull yourself out of alignment with each load, while with a pump action it's more linear. That's just my personal preference and what I'm used to, I guess. So let's say some zombie and soldiers removed each other. Do I grab an M4 carbine or a Matar bullpup? Both shoot 5.56. I'd go for the M4 because I've used it before and I know it better. I'm not familiar with a Matar, and I hate bullpup. I just aesthetically, stink bugs from China here. They're Chinese stink bugs. I'm not just saying that. They come from China. And they're invading the country. Wade Wilson, I like the futuristic look of the KSG, but I've heard it's not very reliable. Yeah, I tend to get jammed. I'd probably take an old double barrel shotgun over the fancy new stuff. Yeah, I prefer over and under to double barrel, but if a two-shot shotgun is all you got, it's better than nothing. If you're gonna go full Mad Max, why not? Todd says double barrel shotgun for granny. Yeah. Again, I prefer over and under to do side by side, but that's again personal preference. I gotta say though, if you're gonna have the Mad Max sewn off, I still prefer the over and under, just because it would fit in like a holster better. Like the side by side is just, it's kind of not easy to put in a holster. It would be like, I'd still take. Oh, there's a weapon. It's called the RMA Rocky Mountain Arms something or other shotgun. It was specially built for the Vice Squad in Florida, and it's an over and under shotgun that folds itself completely over so that you can put it in a little case, and it's only got like I think it's 8 or 12-inch barrel up to choice, and it looks awesome. But obviously it's for like law enforcement only in the States, and even then I think in the States the limit is, I can't remember if it's 16 or 18 inches for barrels. Otherwise you have to register with the ATF or some other shit. And of course in Italy the sawn off shotguns are completely illegal, so that's not an option. But man, Chinese stink bugs are hell, I'm telling you. When I was a little kid, the stink bugs were like little green ones, kind of cute, and they smell a little bit. These Chinese guys are like, my wife got me this like salt gun to shoot bugs. They can take 2 shots of that and like still crawl away, sort of thing. They're tough, stinky, and like our spiders must be getting hungry because I leave the spiders alone. We've got cobwebs all over the place, but they eat the stink bugs. And there's one daddy long legs in the kitchen that's killed at least 3, maybe 4. So that dude, he can stay. You know, there's one there. He's killed another one there, hanging there. So yeah, I hate those things. China, woolly ram. Yeah. The double barrel shotgun from Granny can rip your tender flesh a new one with no problem. Yeah. Oh yeah, a shotgun at close range is it's probably the last thing you want to get hit by. Somewhere black powder and lead. If anything ever happens, our side will not have much of an armory at first. Every man needs to know how to survive in Minecraft or a zombie game. I mean, well, of course. You know, that's standard. I mean, who hasn't played a zombie game where you just gotta build up your tools and weapons and so on? Over and the scatter gun all the way. Can be used to hunt also. Yeah. Like an over and under with 2 triggers is like just cool. You know, you can just pull them both at the same time. I mean, there's some very beautiful looking. Italy makes the best looking guns. I don't care what anybody says. And the shotguns in particular, and some of the black powder revolvers that are made in Italy are beautiful weapons. There are some amazing over and under shotguns, like mono triggers, you know, with 1 trigger, and they are beautiful. They're really pieces of art. But of course, with a mono trigger, you can only fire 1 barrel at a time. The older ones with the 2 triggers, you can actually pull both triggers at the same time. Not that you really want to do that, unless, you know, you really don't like whatever's in front of you, but, yeah. Stink bug surviving the assault rifle. Time to move to an anti-riot rock salt in the shotgun. Dude, those stink bugs will survive anything. They survived being in the so when we traveled with the pram for my kid, for my little girl, and we go to the other side, so the pram goes in the hold, right, of the plane. We get out to the other side, and there, you know, 3 days later, open the like pram, and there's a stink bug falling out, and it's like this fucking thing survived like being in the luggage compartment of an airplane, and 3 days later it's still walking around. So we like flushed it down the toilet so it doesn't infect another area. They're tough things, man, and they've got like a little hard shell. They're just, oh. How do you feel about bird shot for self-defense in that over-under shotgun? Yeah, you know, depends on the range, but like, yeah, for home defense, you know, number 4, number 2, it's good enough. You know, we used to use number 4 a lot for duck hunting, because ducks are pretty tough birds. But you know, for a human buckshot or number 2, yeah, at 10 meters you don't want to get hit by a cloud of number 2. Or even number 4. Hell, at 10 meters you don't want to get hit by a cloud of number 10. You know, it's just gonna be they use it for crowd control in South Africa, so they'll shoot bird shot at crowds, like, because at like 30-40 meters, I mean, it'll blind you if it hits you in the eye, and it can kill you, but to the body it just basically fucks you up, and if you got thick clothing on, probably might not even go through. But you know, you'll know some shit's going on when a cloud of hot lead like lands on your body. Spiders are underrated allies. Not by me. I've always loved spiders. Your stink bug sounds tougher than local wasps. Well, I don't know what the wasps in Israel are like, but the wasps over here are, well, depends which wasp. There's like normal sized wasps. They're like, you know, like normal wasps. And then there's these like, I don't know, fucking B-52 wasps. They're about this big. They're basically the size of my thumb, of the full size of my thumb. And they're like fucking attack helicopters. And they're huge. I mean, like, if you whack them full strength with like a slipper, they'll go down, they'll be hurt and fucked up, but they won't be dead. So there's some serious bugs out here. Can bugs survive the vacuum radiation of space? Nothing can survive the vacuum of space as far as I know. Well, depends on which bugs. Maybe some weird bacteria on asteroids apparently can. Shit, I don't know. Never thought about the bugs in space, but yeah. I love the looks of over and under shotguns. I've never shot one though. How do you aim the lower barrel? Same. I suppose it doesn't make much difference for doves, but ducks and geese makes no difference. Same with a side by side. Actually, I could be wrong, but I think that both the side by side and the over and under, actually the barrels of a side by side shotgun are slightly sort of converged, so that they have like a generic aim point at whatever 25, 30 meters ahead. And an over and under shotgun, I mean, the difference between the two barrels is probably less than an inch. So, considering that at 20 meters you get a group of pellets about this big, doesn't make any difference. If you've ever, shooting an over and under or side by side or a pump action or a semi-auto shotgun, it's all the same. They'll feel the same, like when you shoot them. There's no real difference. Well, okay, I've been going for an hour. I guess this topic is fun. It doesn't feel like I've been talking for an hour, but there you go. Well, unless you guys have got any more questions, comments, or whatever, I hope you enjoyed the little autistic spreadsheet that I took the time to do by measuring each different round's weights and finding out the weights of the weapon and everything, and figuring out how many rounds you can have in the T-Rex. Because I mean, if you think about it, wouldn't you love to just be teleported to like T-Rex times with like a huge ass 50 caliber gun? Just you and a couple of buddies for like a few months. You just have to survive a few months in like T-Rex territory with a bunch of weapons. That'd be awesome. There goes my ideas of using electrode controlled bugs for spaceship maintenance. Well, you could use robots for that, right? Wade Wilson says, according to some nerds, tardigrades can survive the vacuum of space. I don't know if it's true. Yeah, I actually had a video on that when I think the video is called Owen Benjamin is a Shill for Israel. Tardigrades, also known as water bears. They look like tiny, kind of a little bit like a bear, but they're microscopic in size. And apparently they can survive in vacuum and on the moon and places like that. I had a side-by-side 410 as a kid, loved it. Yeah, I had a little colibri, it's called. Colibri is the Italian word for hummingbird. It was a tiny little shotgun like that with like a wireframe stock. Didn't have a stock. The stock was just like a big wire, basically, like with a hole through it, sort of thing. And it had a little nail for the firing pin. And my dad got rid of it. Like, what the fuck? When he sold the house. And that thing could shoot little shotgun shells and little rifle rounds as well. It was awesome. I loved that little gun. Hunting dinosaurs would be a dream. I'd love a fresh Triceratops skull. I'd have to go for T-Rex. I'd have to go for a pissed off T-Rex just to make it, fair. Nah, man. Backstabber says, none of the topic at hand, but yeah, that'd be dope. I'd like to test myself with my ancestors and measure if I'm worth my salt. Probably not. I don't know who Backstabber's talking to or what he's referring to, but I think he's saying he'd prefer to go like hand to hand with like some ancestor rather than a Triceratops. Look, dude, I would, I actually used to fence. I was actually talented at fencing. The guy that taught me was an ex-Olympic coach for England, And he told me, and I believe him, he wasn't the kind of guy to bullshit you. He said, look, if you carry on, in 4 years you're going to the Olympics. Because I was just talented with it, but then, you know, I moved to South Africa, and the only fencing they know there is what keeps cows in. So, but, and so despite my ability in that, and also trained with the bokken, and, you know, did a little bit of kendo and so on, I would hate to like have to fight a guy that was in the Crusades, because those guys were something else. If you want to know what these guys are like, read The Crusades by Harold Lamb. It's definitely my top 3 books ever, and I've read thousands, literally thousands. I'm not just hyperboling shit. The Crusades of Iron Men and Saints is like one of my favorite books of all time, and it's a historic. It's not fiction. It's a proper historical book, very well researched. Those guys were built different, man. They had fucking balls of steel, and they were strong, tough, and just didn't know how to stop. I think I would, you know, if I was teleported to crusading times and I was like suddenly appeared in the group of the guys that were walking to the Crusades in 1095, 1096, I think they would look at me and think of me as some weak, you know, effeminate, homosexual kind of guy. And, you know, in today's world, I'm kind of like a troglodyte barbarian, probably by most people's standards. But having read what those guys got up to and how they just dealt with shit, I think I'd be like, fuck, I'd probably just be a wussy, a complete wuss. And so, you know, what the average guy of today teleported back then, I think he'd just be like the bitch. You know, I don't know. It would just be sad. I don't want to hunt dinos. I want to ride an armored T-Rex. Well, gotta catch him first and train him, you know. Wade Wilson, they might have been good pets. If raptors were even close to be as smart as crows, they could be trained. Yeah, but birds, dude, and reptiles. You can hardly ever even trust a mammal like a lion. Yeah, I wouldn't trust raptors. I want to hear more about fencing, maybe next time. Fencing is awesome. And there's 3 weapons in fencing: the foil, the saber, and the épée, or the sword. The foil is a training weapon. It was never a real weapon. And in the foil, your target is only the torso. You can only hit the torso as a valid target. You have to have your arm straight before you can actually hit. And there's a bunch of artificial rules. It was really a training weapon, and mostly for girls. The saber, slightly more realistic rules. In the saber, everything sort of from the crotch up, torso, head, and all that is considered a target. The legs are not considered a target because the saber was a cavalry weapon, and you did not want to wound the horse of the enemy, because that was, you know, if you kill the guy, you could catch his horse, which was worth more than the man. So you didn't attack the legs because you would wound the horse, generally speaking. So that's why it's not a target. But my favorite weapon, and the one I was best at, is the épée, the sword. Now with the sword, with the épée, you can hit any part of the body, including the tip of the toe, anywhere is a valid thing. And you can have a little bit of jostling. So, you know, if you like get close to the guy and you headbutt him with your like mask on, or you give him a bit of an elbow or a bit of a kick in the balls or whatever, you know, it's not like full on roundhouse kick to the head. That's considered unsporting. But a little bit of like physical tussling is accepted. So I thought it was the most realistic, and I was actually really good at it. When I went for an international, the only international competition I went to before I left the UK, I sat in this wall. I was talking to this guy from Argentina, and he was there, you know, Rafael Di Tella was his name. And so he could speak English pretty well, and anyway, I understood Spanish and whatever. So we're just sitting there, and we're like, hey, he said, no, this is my qualifier for the Olympics. I'm like, okay, cool, fuck, you're good. And you're like, what about you? I said, no, first time I'm fighting. I had never even picked up an épée. I'd only trained with the a foil and a saber. So this was my first time in any competition with a sword, with épée. So I'm a complete novice, and he's like going for the Olympics. And then the announcement comes, and it's like, Piste 1, di Tella Filotto. And I'm like, fuck, that's me and that's you. You know, and he's just been telling me he's going for the Olympics, and I'm like a nobody. So I picked up the épée, and I thought, okay, fuck it. You know, I thought I'm just going to go for it, because whatever, you know. And so we saluted, we did the thing, we salute, and then we go on, we touch blades, and I just charged him. I charged him, and I did a passata sotto, which is when you like go down, you drop all the way down, and I blocked his counter to me. I blocked it, and I stabbed him in the chest, on the heart. And like, beep! He said, point filotto. And the guy, and I, you know, even though you got a mask on, you can see his reaction. He was like, what the fuck? He just looked at me like, what? And he just like, he went back to his line, and he's like, okay. So now he's like, I'm going to take you serious. And after that, he hit me like 5 times on the wrist, and I didn't get close to him again. But that was good enough for me, because I thought, you know what? In a real duel, you'd be dead, dude. I won. So fuck it. I don't care. And he came second in that whole competition. And he lost out to a guy that got him like 4 times on the tip of his foot. And, you know, that was just, the other guy had figured out that was his weakness, I guess. But yeah, fencing is awesome. I love fencing. I was actually thinking of taking it up again. Unfortunately, it's quite relatively expensive, the equipment, and I don't think there's anywhere near here. You know, when I was living in Venice, I looked into it again, because in Venice they had a fencing club, and you know, funnily enough, Italy, Russia, and some of the Baltic states, the Balkans rather, ex-Yugoslavian countries, Bulgaria, whatever, they've got good fences. Like, but generally, Russia and Italy are known to produce very good fencers. So I don't know, some past life information. I don't know. Holy Ram, speaking of the value of horses, perhaps a stream about useful animals in Zombieland? Animals can be unreliable, but I mean, hey, if you got a trained pet lion that you trust, why not, you know? I think just a hunting or / guard dog, a dog that you've trained from when he was a puppy, would be okay. Of a tough sort of mixed breed. I don't know about dinosaurs, says Pedro. I think I would prefer hunting the giants of ancient times, the ones that supposedly ate humans, but training dinos to use as cavalry, it would be a nice riding a velociraptor. There's a story. What's the guy's name? Is it Mr. Ballams? There's a guy on YouTube who like has weird stories, and there's this story of like these special ops guys in Afghanistan. It was a team of special ops guys that got charged by a giant with a red beard who actually threw a spear straight through one of the guys and killed him. And then the other guys shot this like giant dead. And apparently a helicopter picked him up and disappeared. And the guys were sworn to secrecy, but like 20 years later, one of them talked. Is it true? Is it all bullshit? I don't know. Personally, I think I know from the fossil record that there were 10-foot tall humanoid beings. That's a fact. So I don't see why there couldn't have been giants. And Afghanistan is probably one of the few places that, you know, those guys have been at war for like 4,000 years straight. And there's a bunch of areas there that probably nobody's been into. So yeah, Pedro, you can go right now to Afghanistan for a few months and you might find a giant in a cave. There you go. Wade Wilson knows what I'm talking about. Wait, I heard the stories, but I don't know how much of it is of psyop or not. Is fencing a mental game too? You know, every sport has got like a tendency, Sam. I found out, for example, swimming. In swimming, when I was swimming competitively, swimmers have got a very individualistic. They're like up for themselves. You know, they're very. They tend to be generally friendly and like honorable people, but they're like, I'm gonna win this. And even when you're in a team like relay or whatever, it's like, yeah, we're gonna win this because we're all good individually. Martial artists, tend to have a bit more of a team spirit, I think, in general, just because you're suffering through so much. It's not necessarily that it's team sport. It's not a team sport, martial arts, but you go through so much shit and get beaten the crap out of if you're in a proper martial art class, that it's a bit like the army. It's like it's every guy's trying to survive, but you all go through the same shit, so you become like sort of good buddies. Fencing. The fencers are probably the most arrogant of the sportsmen that I've encountered, but I don't know now, I haven't been in it for a long time, but at the time when I did it, you could have a guy who was a prick, arrogant assholes, but on the fencing piste, they would have a sense of honor. So even if the guy was a guy you wouldn't want to spend 5 minutes with off the piste, on the piste, even if he was like, because each fencer will have his own style, and some styles are more like underhanded or sneaky than others, but they all respect a certain line. There's a certain rule in fencing that you have to be a nobleman of sorts. And so, noblemen can be assholes, but they still have the code of nobility, that sort of thing. So it's, in terms of a mental game, yeah, every martial art is a mental game. I remember when I was in Paris and Vox was talking to these young guys and said, well, it's like fighting. And then he looked at me and goes, well, you're a martial artist. What's the most important thing in a fight? And I said, your mind. And he was like, oh, no, it's getting up again. And I'm like, dude, what do you think getting up again after you got knocked down involves? It's not your body. It's your mind. Your mind is absolutely the most important factor in any martial endeavor, whether it's fencing, boxing, martial arts, mixed martial arts, karate, sistema, whatever. Your mind is your weapon, is your primary weapon. Everything else, is bonuses or handicaps. But yeah, it's always a mental game. I mean, like boxing and tennis. I've never played tennis, always been shit at it. I played squash. I was half decent at squash. But tennis, I couldn't quite get the hang of like hitting the ball just with the right amount of force so you don't just whack it into the end. Like squash, you can hit it as hard as you want. That I don't know. Squash was more my speed. Tennis was just a bit too airy-fairy for me. Funnily enough, I like badminton, although, not as much as squash or whatever. Pedro, well, the Smithsonian has been hiding giant skeletons for over 100 years. Yeah, so I hear. Wade Wilson, they destroyed giant skeletons. They also destroyed fossilized footprints of a dinosaur walking next to a man. Yeah. Why destroy that if most people would think it's obviously fake? Exactly. The history that you've been told is all a lie. There's all sorts of lies about the pyramids in Egypt, the 7 crystal tablets. Joseph Farrell wrote about that in one of his books. And like one of the first things they did when they invaded Iraq was go to the museum and stole these like emerald tablets that supposedly were there. There's a bunch of shit that like the people that run things are like hiding from you. Another guy was called Texarkana, and eventually he got like scared off the internet. But you can find his archived website, and he used to talk about melon heads and Neanderthals and some interesting stuff in there as well. Boy, we've definitely gone off topic. But yeah, anyway, I'll give you guys another minute in case you've got one last or a few last sentences or questions or comments on whatever topic. I like the way Wade Wilson talks and thinks. He's made very interesting comments throughout this chat. So thank you, Wade, and welcome to the chat. Pedro Rocha, I don't know. What I do know is that they lie and lie a lot, particularly if it's something that confirms or supports Christianity. Yeah. Well, there's a whole book of giants, isn't it? one of my favorite characters from history, Prince Bohemond, whose name was actually Marco. He was named after one of the giants from the Book of Giants because he was such a big dude. And he was smart and kind of sneaky in the right kind of way. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for being here, and God bless and keep every single one of you. Have a good night and a good week, and I'll see you shortly. Oh, by the way, any of you that are interested in the gasifier project, on the other channel, Apocalypse Joe, I've put up another video on that. Anyway, see you next time, and have a good evening.